Hello and welcome to Elden Kings and Elden Ring Discussion. You're in for a spooky episode for October, and joining me tonight are Aesir Aesthetics and Sin from SinclairLore. Hello and welcome to the podcast. How are you two doing?
I'm good.
Pretty good. Hi.
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 So Aesir, you're a you've been here a couple of times by now, but Sin, this is your first time. How does it feel? Wow.
It's very exciting. Super cool. I listen to your podcast all the time, so this is actually really, really exciting.
Oh, thank you. I listen to yours as well.
Oh.
Do you guys listen to watch my stuff too, Sin?
No, never. I don't even know you.
Never even heard of you.
Yes.
So yeah, this episode tonight, the topic was partially inspired from your own interests, Sin. It's horror, specifically for the game Outlast, which I hadn't actually played until recently. I just knew very vague things about it, even though it's a very popular game. I don't know how I dropped the ball on it for so long.
Yeah, it's been around for about a decade, and it's one of the scariest games out there.
2014, I think. I distinctly remember because I was still riding high from Amnesia: The Dark Descent, and I was looking for anything that was even remotely like it. And then I saw the trailer for Outlast, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's just like Amnesia."
Except it's good.
Hey now, hey now.
Shots fired.
No, Amnesia is good. Amnesia is good. I think Amnesia. What was it?
Rebirth.
Yeah, I think Amnesia Rebirth was one of the first scary games I actually finished in my life.
Because it wasn't that scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the bunker is really, really good. The latest Amnesia game.
Cool.
Sin, do you ever dream of being stuck in an underground World War I bunker, haunted by a monster?
No. Do you?
All the time.
It's like an everyday experience in the States. You get used to it.
I wake up screaming, and it's like, oh, it's real life. It's not. I'm not in the bunker anymore.
But yeah, I was very impressed with Outlast. It's like the interactivity in horror makes it a lot scarier than it usually is just watching a movie where I can make fun of things. It's like, I got jumped a couple times.
Only a couple?
Well, probably more than I'd like to admit.
Yeah, I think the jump scares of this game have got to be some of the most effective jump scares I've experienced in my life. And that's coming from someone who watches a lot of horror movies. But, even though I played it a few times and I can navigate myself in the game, I think part of my brain blocked out a lot of it because I replayed it recently for this podcast. And I was still having jump scares because I didn't remember that things that happened were going to happen. And at some point, the experience became too much again. I'm like, I played this before. Why am I too scared to continue?
You didn't stream your latest playthrough, though.
No, actually, interestingly enough, I was on vacation, so I was playing it on the beach.
That's a fun place to play a horror game.
Yeah,
that's the right way to spend a vacation in a terrifying mental asylum. I really like Amnesia. I think the jump scares in it, Amnesia, Outlast. I think the jump scares in it, I think they work better when it's from gameplay. Like when you're running around and you don't have a lot of batteries, so you're putting down the camera and you're walking around in the dark and then you put it back up and there's a guy in front of you. I love that stuff. I don't really love how often you're shimmying across a broken piece of floor and then a hand comes out of the cell and all of a sudden you're just in the middle of a non-interactive cutscene. But I really love the whole interplay with darkness and the camera and such. Yeah. I think that's really where the game's at its best. I also, I don't know, are we doing spoilers right away or do we want to maybe talk a bit more generally about the game?
Let's start generally and then work into spoiler territory with an announcement later on so people can get the vibe and then get spoiled if they so choose.
All right.
Okay.
So you play as, what's his name? Miles
Upshur.
Upshur.
Yeah.
And you get an anonymous tip to go to the mental asylum. And I love that you don't go through the front door. You have to sort of sneak your way in.
Yeah.
And it's like 2 minutes in, and you're like, oh, this place has gone crazy. with the SWAT member there who's like, oh, the variants escaped.
Oh
And
my
then
god, yeah.
yeah, and what's his name? The big guy.
Christopher Walker.
Christopher Walker.
Chris
Yeah,
Walker.
he grabs you, throws you down, and then you're sort of locked inside, and you have to find your way out.
Yeah. I think that slow start does a lot for it. I think Outlast in general does really well with its pacing, which is why its horror is so good. But like the beginning, as you sneak around the property looking for an entrance with the knowledge as a player that you're in a horror game, you really feel like you're digging your own grave, which adds to the level of tension that's being developed because you're like, why am I doing this? Get back in the car, Miles. Go away. Go home. It's not
He's a
worth it.
reporter. He has to do this, you know?
He does.
I have to expose everything.
It's like, I have a deadline. I need to do this.
I love how it's so funny, like the characterization that Miles get. He's like the nitty gritty reporter out to uncover the corporate secrets of America. You know, it's he's a fun character.
Yeah. I also love when on this topic of it just flew out of my head what I was gonna say. It'll come back to me.
Just let us know, you know, if it comes back.
Hey now. Hey now. None of that. That's a very rude way of going about things. But no, yeah, but on the characterization, I love how Miles, it's like he's got a lot of attitude and stuff, but there's moments where Miles goes through extraordinary pain. And he's still like just crawling around in vents, and it's like, I don't think you'd be like physically able to do this right now.
Yeah.
But
I really,
it's but like it's fine. It's fine. It's just like you're nitpicking and such. I think it's really interesting. Did you guys ever play Outlast 2?
Yes.
Like, I've seen the first little bit of it, but that's it.
Yeah, I think Outlast 2 is a big step down from Outlast 1.
I'd say it's a step to the left or something.
Yeah, because
it seems much more actiony from what little I've seen. I don't know if that's true.
I feel like you can really feel the sort of the scripting behind the scenes a lot more in Outlast 2. It doesn't feel like as much as you're just plopped down in an area and you need to progress. It's more just like go here, go here, go here, go here. There's great moments in it. I really like when you're in like the little village sections and you're running around and you go inside a shack and then you can just throw the deadbolt in and the the townspeople try to break in. But the game felt a lot more on rails, I guess, than the first Outlast.
Oh, definitely, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it felt a lot more like a regular scary game.
Yeah, and it did the thing with the camcorder, where it's like night mode, and I really like that. You know, we can see in the dark. That's a good gimmick for this franchise to have, but I don't feel like it added all that much. I guess it went down that sort of found footage Blair Witch direction a little bit, but I don't know. I don't feel it ultimately adds all that much to it. When especially because the first game really gets a lot of juice out of just plopping you down, and that's another thing I really love about the first game. It's just like, like there's, you know, you're just walking around, you have this big area to explore, and then you sort of, you know, you make your progress from one big area, and you just dropped right into another one, and so there's a lot of interesting set pieces, like with is the doctor, you know, the doctor sequence,
Traeger?
Yeah, that's a like a fun little sequence. There's a sequence against the twins when we're thrown down that after we've been shimmying across, we fall down. Is it called the pit?
Which
I'm
one?
not sure. Do you mean the place where you get out of like Father Martin's like old cell, and then the people are like talking about cutting you apart and eating your kidneys? Or
no, I'm talking about the part where they throw us down there specifically. And we're just like
there's an explosion and you fall.
Is there an explosion? That might be. I don't know. Anyways, I'm just saying, I like that the game has a lot of these sorts of different kinds of set pieces for us to navigate through.
Yeah. It's never a dull moment.
Yeah, creativity in the backdrop of what you're running through is important. I think they keep it really fresh in Outlast. So you've got the sewers, the mail ward, Traeger's little butcher shop. One thing I think is interesting, and again, I haven't played Outlast 2, so forgive me if I make an assumption that's wrong. But it seems like a lot more of it is outdoors, and I feel like the outdoor segment of Outlast 1 was sort of weaker in the sense that it was really easy to waste all your batteries, and it changed some of the tension. And while playing Whistleblower, I noticed that outdoor sequence was bright, where you couldn't use the night vision because it would go into the fog and blind you. So I think that a lot of Whistleblower had sort of it was made with feedback from the main game in mind, and I think that feedback might have transcended into some of what was going on in Outlast 2. I'm not sure how much, though, because if they're using big open fields with night vision again, obviously they went backwards in that. But
I feel people generally prefer Outlast 1 to Outlast 2, from what I've seen.
That's what I've been told. Every time I bring up playing Outlast, everyone's like, well, don't play Outlast 2, you'll be disappointed.
I don't know if I'd ever tell anybody not to play Outlast 2. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff in it. There's a lot of good sort of pagan cultists in deep caves, and you're just walking through these deep caves. I think that's really good stuff. It just, like I said, it feels more on rails, and it's just not as scary as the first one.
Yeah.
Well, wait, you're saying it's not as scary as the first one?
I think the first Outlast is much scarier than the second one.
Oh, really? I thought the second one was at least as scary as the first one.
Wrong.
Wrong.
And now we got the Outlast Trials. Do we know? Are they're probably going to make another single player one, right?
Well, the talk is that they are going to make Outlast 3 wherever it is. Yeah.
All right.
Is Outlast Trials a multiplayer thing, or
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like a collaborative puzzle solving, and it's contextualized as we're doing a psychological experiment on you, and you have to navigate through these different sort of little diorama cities and such while being chased by the inmates. It's interesting, but I feel like with Outlast 2 and the Outlast Trials, they really haven't capitalized on what I think the greatest strength of the original Outlast is, which is this very sort of deep and detailed background lore, because we're sort of it does this thing where you're introduced into this world, and it just seems like it's a kind of a heightened reality. The inmates are running the asylum and all of that, but it doesn't look like a supernatural world. But then that's gradually sort of revealed with Project Wallrider, and Outlast 2, it just sort of throws that in your face right away. And the Outlast Trials, it's just I think it's it's well made from what I've seen of it, but I don't think procedurally generated horror like that really works, especially when you do it as a collaborative game. So I would really like it if they did, even just do Project Wallrider, just do a game set during World War II or whatever, and you're like, hey, this experiment we're doing here has gone wrong, so you're just one of the doctors and you have to make your way out, or something like that.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, if you're one of the actual doctors, I hope you don't make your way out.
You probably deserve it.
Definitely.
Maybe it's like that time where I was called in to evict that family. Remember, Sin?
Oh my god, yes.
And I didn't do it, and I let my boss do it instead, and that made me a hero.
Yes.
Conscientious objector.
Yeah, I stood on the sidelines like a coward.
Jesus. Yeah.
I was 21. Don't send a 21-year-old.
No, but yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were also going to throw all of their stuff in the trash.
Jesus.
That's terrible.
That's terrible. It was awful. I got to keep 2 boxes full of Legos.
Oh my god. That's the lesson that Aesir came away with. It's
and I was
that meme with the guy looking at something and the overarching theme going of it.
Yeah, I was like, I should probably try to track that family down, give the kid his Legos back. And I was like, but then I was like, well, I could just keep this Lego. It's pretty good Lego.
Oh, Aesir.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm, maybe that's the real. Maybe I'm the real monster here.
Maybe Snail needs to re-educate you.
Ooh,
Maybe.
get taken to the factory.
6, 2, 1. Yeah, but do we want to maybe talk a bit about Project Wallrider? Sin, you're actually a brain doctor, right?
That's I'm also a heart surgeon. I'm a brain doctor, heart surgeon, lawyer.
You're
wow.
No, you're a behavioral guy, right?
Yeah, I work in research, but I don't actually do the doctor things.
If I wanted to do a Project Wallrider in real life, what do I do?
It depends on how you want to go about it. Definitely one of the things you need is a protocol, which denotes what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Okay.
And during our playthroughs, we actually tried to find the protocol in the facility. And unfortunately, we're unsuccessful.
Did you find the policy, though?
Gideon is like, what?
A little bit. I'll admit it.
No more in-jokes here, Sin.
Yeah, no.
We're guests.
We're guests, we must behave.
But yeah, do we maybe want to talk a bit about Project Wallrider? It's been a while since I played the game, so maybe somebody else take the lead on that one.
Well, essentially, what you're trying to do is create super soldiers with nanites and lucid dreaming. Very logical, normal thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the project is directed by a Nazi scientist. Very logical, normal thing to do.
Hey, gotta use those guys for something, I guess.
Oh my god.
Horror movie settings make do.
Yeah. But basically, essentially what you do is you take unsuspecting subjects, which could be, people who may not have a home or people who have mental health issues, and you forcefully consent them for the project, and then you experiment on them by putting them into by exposing them to a thing called a morphogenic engine, which involves
the morphogenic ooze?
Yeah, there we go. And that involves, hormone therapy, audiovisual therapy.
I'm sorry.
Aesir, I'm talking. This is important.
Sorry.
And once the subject is, I guess, ready at a certain stage, you put them in a morphogenic engine chamber and hook them up to the engine, at which point you inject nanites or something, I don't know, into them. And through lucid dreaming, they're able to control the nanite swarm and to manifest the Wallrider. Very normal things.
Super typical.
Yeah.
It was sort of interesting, playing through the game, because they come at it with, a lot of different, is it supernatural, like Father Martin thinks, or is it scientific, like Wernicke says, and it's they happened upon the ability to induce hormone therapy in a human and have them become nanite producers within their own cells. And then from there, they manifested the first iteration of the swarm, and all of the Nazi scientists were like, occultism, ooh, and it's just all downhill from there. But it's sort of interesting how they sort of layer in these ideas of the human subconscious mind interacting with the nanite swarm, and how the overall environment that it occurs in, Nazi Germany during the Holocaust, or an asylum where they just are actively torturing people. It's there's a lot going on with it that sort of bridges both. It's very natural philosophy, pseudoscience, occultism,
Yeah. And that's a good point you bring up, because like you said, Father Martin doesn't see it as science. He thinks whatever they're doing, they're contacting some supernatural entity. And he's not the only one. He kind of, more than one person believes that something was waiting for us in the mountains, and they awoken something with this project. Yeah.
Even Father Wernicke, with the last quote in Outlast 1, he says, "Oh, you've become the host," which sort of goes against all of his previous ideas about how they created the nanite swarm just by doing these things to humans, you know, like doing a Frankenstein, because if you can become the host of something, if that's integral to the success, and if that's related to the Shroud from German folklore, and if Billy's like having contacts with these things and believes in the supernatural mysticism himself, then they probably, it seems very strongly that there is something out there, and Wernicke's like in denial, but yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Well, that's something we talked about on our podcast in the past, like how, you know, because the project, quote unquote, succeeded, right? But only twice. Once with Billy and once with Miles, and Miles wasn't even in the study. So clearly, like, I was thinking, like my idea, I was like, if I look at this as a scientist, what's going on here is, yeah, Wernicke's thing kind of, again, quotes, works partially, where he's like, if you expose a person to this traumatic event in certain circumstances, they'll control the, you know, the swarm. But this only happens in like one subject, Billy, and Billy is implied to be able to kind of have a psychic thing going on, where he saw like Traeger's true self in his dreams or something. So, you know, we were thinking maybe the real thing that's happening is the project will work if you have an individual with some sort of psychic potential and you expose them to all these things that Wernicke is doing. But taking people off the street randomly will not work, because they probably don't have the psychic element going on.
Yeah. And Billy Hope even has like this sort of like uniqueness in his place as a patient at the asylum, because like first of all, he's one of the few people with an outside connection, while the others are like quote unquote undesirables without families or people to care for them. But like Billy is there to get money for his mother, who does care for him, and he even has the astounding last name of Hope, which like I feel like is very telling of like what they wanted to characterize him as before he became the host of whatever the Swarm or Walrider is. So it's like, I think that there is something about, you know, the uniqueness of the individual does change how they interact with the swarm. It's like, you can't just throw shit at the wall until something works, because everyone else just turns into like the variants, and then they have issues, you know?
Yeah. Did I, Gideon, was it with you where I went on my, I think I've gone on this rant like 3 times. Did we ever go through the Lovecraft rant together?
Ooh, about how you like couldn't divorce the racism of the inherent like stories from like modern retellings, because so much of how his writing is based in like prejudice or something like that.
I'm talking about how Lovecraft is the virgin and Hudson is the Chad. Didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, Billy Hope Hudson or whatever his name was. Yeah, the guy
William,
that
William Hope Hudson.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring that up because Billy Hope, William Hope Hudson.
Yeah,
I haven't read all of his books, all of his stories. Sin, do you know if Outlast is cribbing from any of his works? It seems really weird that his name is in there. If it is a reference to him.
Yeah, Sophie mentioned it in a podcast. She did bring up his works. She knows more about it than I do. Oh. But yeah, she did make a connection.
Why isn't Sophie here?
Well, that's because I, a true genius, is here. And let me tell you, William Hope, born March 2, 1955, is a Canadian actor, best known for his numerous roles in the Alien and Alien vs. Predator franchises, portraying Lieutenant Scott Gorman in Aliens and Alien River of Pain and Xenomorphs and other stuff. So there's your connection.
Oh, yeah,
you're welcome.
I can see. Alien.
Exactly. You're so wise, son.
Thank you.
Where do you draw this knowledge from? Is it the higher plane? Is it the Walrider?
First research on Google. I just literally typed it in now.
I just see, not only like do you begin to light up, but your entire room lights up with this white light as you drop this enlightenment on us.
As the browser is turned on.
The angel Gabriel has descended.
Yes.
And another angel.
Okay. Okay.
And then Sin can copyright claim the video.
All part of her nefarious plan to take down the competing podcast. I say competing, quote unquote.
Yes. 5D chess.
But yeah, I mean, like, what are your thoughts on Project Wallrider, or like some of the occurrences that happened because of it? It's a very crazy game, and even in the game, they talk about how there's no like normal thing that happens to people besides the obsession with genital mutilation. That comes up a lot in the games, over and over. But like,
Yeah.
everything else is pretty disparate.
Yeah. I'd never given much thought to it. I do think it's interesting. So we have like Chris Walker. He was a former soldier, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like missing his nose, and so he kind of looks like he has like a clown nose because he just has this giant red spot.
Well, I think that's just you, Aesir.
No, I think I think this is a universal perception. I think everybody agrees.
Think you're just like, because you recently watched Twisted Metal, the series, so you think of like Sweet Tooth.
I'm probably confusing him with Will Arnett. That's right. You know, Chris Walker, the guy who does magic tricks in Arrested Development. I mean, illusions in Arrested Development.
The voice of BoJack Horseman. Wow.
Yeah, he voiced Lego Batman. Chris
Did
Walker.
he really?
Yeah, he's Lego Batman.
That's insane.
First try. Yeah, but the twins. Do you guys remember what the backstory of the twins was?
I'm not sure. Do they have a file that you find on them?
I think there was something. I'm trying to.
Let's go to the Outlast wiki.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'd forgotten this because there's a lot of enemies whose job it is basically just to pursue us. So we have Chris Walker. The twins do the same thing. I really like that they went the extra mile to characterize them very differently. So, you know, you walk into a room, Chris Walker enters the room, and you know that if you get out of the wardrobe or the drawer, not the drawers, the closet or whatever you're hiding in, he's just going to tear you to shreds. And he's not really... You're just basically supposed to hide from him. What I really like about the twins is that when they enter a room, they don't really slam doors. They're really like gentle and normal going about it.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah.
Because that's an extra auditory cue we could use at that time.
Yeah.
No, they're very calm. They're very chill. They're like, oh, well, we can't kill you yet. Father Martin said no, but when we will, we'll eat your liver. Okay.
Yeah. And then they don't even run after you. They just like walk calmly behind you. Yep.
Yeah. Because they don't need to run. They're like those horror movie guys, you know, that never run. They just walk.
Yeah.
Still catch you in the end.
I like the characterization. Like, the characterization in Outlast is very on the nose in a lot of ways, but it does it to its like... it works really well, especially for a video game where interaction with something, like, it's better to not be subtle because then you can miss things. But like with the twins, the contrast against Chris Walker, like you said, works really well because it's a much different type of horror and it changes the inherent pacing of the scene. So you get, like, you know, you learn how to interact with all of these different people, and the twins have such an eerie atmosphere to them. You know, it's like hunting big cat, like big cat's hunting you or something. You know it's following you in the woods. There's no way you're gonna outpace it. You know.
Yeah. With Chris Walker, you're always sort of just rushing, or even when is it Taggart? Traeger. When they're chasing you, you're kind of like running, but with the twins, you can like see them. And you just you're also just walking, but it's just like this long sort of, I'm not stressed. I'm not trying to, I'm trying to avoid them, but I'm playing the long game. And I'm like, do I have time right now to go into this room and check if I can find some extra batteries or what have you?
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of...
The fact that there's two of them works really well. You know, like a hunting pair. I think my favorite scene with them is that, like, really early on, you know, you're escaping the prison block. You're going past a bunch of windows. It's a long, narrow hallway, and you see one of them appear, and he's walking down towards you all confident. And if you back up far enough, the other one just stabs you in the back, and you die. And it works really well, because, you know, you have to jump out a window and escape. But, like, it's just a really good introduction to how they work mechanically, you know, so that you know to always be looking out for the second one.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's like that whole fear of the unknown, because you can keep one of them in your sights,
but not both.
Not both of them. So now you need to turn around periodically, and you're like a stressed little rabbit being hunted by a fox or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Who's the most dateable Outlast villain?
Oh,
Most eligible bachelor?
well, which one of the
I'm
which
just
ones?
going through everyone, and I just say can't.
Well, we can do this by process of elimination. Like, so which ones still have their genitals?
Oh my god.
Hey, Aesir, there's more to a romantic relationship than sex.
No, there
Yeah,
not
Well, wait, let's do this logically. Okay. Wernicke is a no. Chris Walker is a no.
Why is Chris Walker a no? Oh, right, because he's crazy.
He has, I'd say, there are a couple of red flags about Chris Walker.
I couldn't date a soldier.
Well, that's valid. He does have a little bit of a rage issue happening whenever he sees you. He rips your head off. I don't know about that.
But Chris Walker.
But you know what?
He's the good
language
guy.
of love is different for everyone. Okay.
That's true. That's true.
It's like
Chris
a praying
Walker.
mantis.
Do you know the thing about praying mantises? They don't actually They don't rip their mates' heads off in the wild. They just do that in observation labs because they go crazy.
Man, that's crazy.
No,
I mean, I believe it.
What?
It's the same
Seriously?
It's the same with chimpanzees. They don't masturbate in the wild. That's basically something they just do when they're bored because they're kept in a cage all day, like in a zoo.
Wow.
Huh. I know
Yep.
that wolf packs, a lot of their like social dynamics are exaggerated in captivity as well. So like captivity changes. That's a very stressful thing to be, even for an animal to be imprisoned.
They're supposed to be in the wild, surviving. Like you always see this. It's always so disappointing. This is not anything to do with Outlast, but like when you go to a zoo and you're like, I want to see the big cats, I want to see the tigers and the lions, and they're just like the cats at home. They're just sitting there sleeping because they don't need to do anything. They don't need to hunt. So the food comes to them. Why would they have any energy to do anything?
Did you actually like the zoo growing up? I always saw it as a prison for animals, and it made me depressed.
The zoo here in Iceland is just like farm animals. It's just like cows and pigs and stuff.
Okay.
It's
I
the
liked
biggest.
the penguins. That's about it.
Oh, bang.
Oh wait, actually, we had seals in the Icelandic zoo. I like the
Ooh.
seals.
The Navy SEALs?
Well, no, it's just like baby seals and grown-up seals. I don't think seals have rights. I think it's okay to lock them up.
What? Hey, sir.
Nah, I'm joking. But Chris Walker, he's again, maybe memory is failing me. He is a good guy, right? He's trying to prevent you from going down.
Okay, good guy is a strong word. Yeah, I think Gideon.
He's a lawful good guy, right?
I don't know if lawful good is the right one, but maybe lawful like neutral or evil. He's willing to do anything at any cost to keep the taint of the wall rider in the asylum, which means killing anyone that might witness it and killing anyone that's spreading it. So like he's constantly after Martin because Martin believes in the gospel of sand and wants to spread his theology to the world, which like that's the weird thing about the Project Wall Rider is that once it's like initiated by the hormone therapy or by like a host, all it takes is like knowledge of the events to start transcending. Because you hear about like people in like executive boards of Murkoff getting like affected by it and then being hospitalized, and it's like they were nowhere near. They didn't know about the morphogenic engine. They had no hormone therapy. They were just nearby and predisposed. You know,
it's like Agaric.
We're
back. I'm so glad Sophie isn't here. Sophie would have died.
Maybe that's why she didn't show,
She knew you'd mentioned Kagari at least once. She's like, I'm not dealing with it.
I'm not recording with Aesir. Not again.
Not again.
Yeah. If you had to, let me ask you guys a question. If you were put in charge of Outlast 3, what do you do? Because I briefly pitched that, you just go back in time. But if you do that, you don't have the night vision camera. And I think you kind of want that.
Well, you can have it because it's like experimenting, environment. So you have some sort of thing that's not going to be a camera, but something. Yeah.
They'd have to come up with new looking batteries, but it'd be doable.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I think that you definitely want to keep the identity of the night vision for the series, because there's a big thing about, ooh, you can't see in the dark, ooh, there's the tension of survival horror.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I know that while I played Whistleblower, it was sort of obvious that they probably got a lot of critiques about night vision batteries being scarce, because I picked like 4 of them up in the first like very early portion of the game, and they doubled the capacity.
Oh.
But they did something interesting with it where like halfway through you get your battery count reset, and I think that would work really well for a future game where you have the possibility of you prevent stockpiling, which removes the tension element of how the batteries work, but then you reintroduce the scarcity by occasionally resetting people, which also makes those like scripted plot events even scarier, because then you're being affected mechanically, on top of like, oh my gosh, the main character got grappled for 10 seconds while I watched, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do the Resident Evil 4 thing where they just sort of, items spawn sort of relative to how much you need them.
That's
so if
true.
if you're really low on batteries, the game will just spawn some batteries in a drawer you haven't opened or something. That's one way they could do this. I really like. This is the sequence I was talking about way at the start. I really love the sequence at the end where you drop your night vision camera.
Oh, that one's good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're being chased by it's the twins there, right?
And a couple of just other variants. I think it's like more than 2 people.
Yeah, and like you're not really in that much danger down there, but because you don't have the camera, like it's been this crutch that you relied on all throughout the game, and now you're like, well, I don't have that now, and I just need to walk around in the dark completely blind. It's really good stuff.
Yeah.
I think the asylum setting with the tight hallways works really well for that, because then you can control lighting really directly, much more than in an open field.
Yeah.
And you can make contrived positions where there's like beams of sunlight coming through the walls, or like, you know, lingering like emergency lights. And you can use that as like a trail of breadcrumbs for people when they don't have night vision.
Yeah.
So...
And you can... it's very easy to just, hey, we want to have an enemy encounter. Let's just add an office there with a door that opens when you walk close to it or something.
Yeah. What was the main character in Outlast 2 like? We've got, you know, nitty-gritty journalist, soft boy software developer, and then who else?
See, this is one of those things with Outlast 2 is that its story I felt was very forgettable. To the point of like, I have flashes of the game begins with a helicopter crashing, scene missing, you're walking around in the forest, scene missing, you're in some crazy village, and then you're in a cave, scene missing, and then you're like walking around in a school?
Oh, flashbacks.
Oh, that's a flashback, right. And I think there's some... Wait, are you a pregnant woman in that game?
No, but I think your girlfriend is.
That might be. And it's like...
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like... I think it's a very unfocused game. And like Outlast 1, I do have some misgivings about it. It's not unfocused. I think it really much knows what it wants to be. And it's really good on delivering on that.
Yeah.
Whereas Outlast 2, it's like, oh, it's cult mysticism, but also it's like things from your past coming back to haunt you. You're just like, wait a minute, can I just... And they also do this thing of, you know, they're constantly holding answers from you, from these mysteries, and they just pile on the mystery. So at the end, they give you the answers, and it's like, okay, now I need to sort of scroll back 8 hours and try to build up everything. It's just like, you know, it's...
But it's true. It did. If I remember, because you had the main character who's so memorable, I don't remember his name.
Weren't you a woman in that game?
No, you were.
Okay.
No,
we've gone over this already.
But you have the story of the main character about his like traumatic childhood, right? Which is like important. But also you have currently things that are happening that are also pretty traumatic.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have 2 stories that are like good, but like you don't need both of them in the same game to that intensity, I think.
Yeah.
You know? Like focus on one sort of thing, explore one thing. Yeah, it was not focused like you said.
Yeah. Or if they have to, they could Bioshock it. Like if you want to do 2 stories, you could like Bioshock it, or like Bloodborne or Demon Souls it, where the story in the past is just sort of baked into your natural exploration of the world, and it gradually becomes revealed at the same time the story that's happening right in front of you is resolving. And I think that when you do it through flashbacks, they just feel so disconnected from the rest of the
Yeah.
experience.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very common like horror movie thing though, to like implement those flashbacks. Oh my god, what was that word? But yeah, like I feel like that's a very common thing, and I feel like in some ways, if part of that unfocusing could have been from them just getting too deep into let's make horror movie references without fully delving into what they could do with them. Where like the Asylum was just the horror movie Asylum; it was focused.
Yeah, like that structure probably makes more sense in an actual movie where there's a lot more liberty with playing around with editing and like the sort of stretching out time and throwing things on distinct points in time together to try to tell a story. Whereas with a video game, you know, the activities I'm engaging in on a minute-to-minute basis are just wildly disconnected from one another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the you mentioned before that there were more like scripted events in Outlast 2, or that it felt that way. I think
it felt that way.
Yeah.
The like really well-directed mechanical nature of the different villains of Outlast 1 is like that probably helps. You know, I know that there's a lot of like what feel like scripted events where like, you know, you flip a switch and you're being chased by a guy, and no matter where that guy is, now he's suddenly right outside the door, so you have to hide. You know, it has a lot of the scripted events that lend themselves to mechanically playing through it rather than like, oh, you got tackled by an evil scarecrow, like mash A to defend yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, and for Outlast 1, I feel like it's a lot more in tune with the kind of game you're normally playing. So, yes, when you flip the switch, the enemy just spawns right there to come to you. But that might also just happen organically when you're playing the game, that you're just opening a drawer and an enemy randomly walks by. Whereas, and I'm not willing to defend this statement because there's been such a long time since I really thought about Outlast 2. But for that game, I just have this vivid recollection that the activities that were unfurling sort of around us, they didn't speak with the same language as the rest of the game. It was inelegant, as Fumito Ueda would say. The director of course, Shadow of the Colossus. Sin, did you ever play Shadow of the Colossus?
Which one is that?
Oh, so cringe. So cringe. This is what I have to deal with.
Okay, is this the one where you start and there's like a grave or something, and then you have to go into the distance? Or you start in some sort of temple? And then
Yeah.
Yeah, I played like 30 seconds, got bored.
Ooh.
Lame.
Scathing critique.
Played for 30 seconds. 0 out of 10.
That's the one where you climb giant monsters, right?
Yeah. Sin, I think you'd. I feel like those games lend themselves really well to your. Well, maybe not. Maybe they're too deep for you.
Look, my favorite game at the moment is
Fallout New Vegas.
No, what do you call it?
Armored Core.
Masterpiece, perfect game. I finished it like 12 times. Tank build is the only true build. I love it.
Hell yeah, no. We respect that so much.
No, bipedal.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with snails, like balloon pants, bipedal legs. Like, it's so good.
The apple bottom jeans, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be right back after these messages. How are you? For many, that's a perfectly easy question to answer, but for some, it can be a heart stopper. But don't worry, we see you. We at Mount Massive Asylum know the difficulty of managing mental illness in a world that can be unforgiving to its core. That's why we, with the charitable aid of the Murkoff Corporation, have made it our goal, our mission, to help all those in dire need of it, at zero cost to the patient. Mount Massive Asylum will provide a safe and healing environment to its visitors so that when they're ready to return to the outside world, they'll be entirely allowed to do so. We have exactly 0 former Nazi scientists working with us, and we definitely are not performing torturous experiments in the basement. I don't even know why you'd ask that. So why don't you try Mount Massive Asylum today and have your fears confirmed? This message brought to you by Murkoff Research and Development. And now, back to the episode. Okay, so this is totally segueing into another topic entirely. But I am curious, because Armored Core 6 was really fucking good, right?
Yes.
Like, brilliant game.
Yes.
I also played it a lot, although partially that was mandated by my save file getting corrupted not once, but twice midway through New Game Plus.
Oh no.
Yeah. And then you beat it and you were like, yes, I finally beat it. And they're like, yeah, you know how you had to beat it twice? You have to beat it twice more.
Yeah, literally.
Oh.
Oh.
It was fine. It really lends itself to replayability. So, like, if it had been Elden Ring, I think I would have been a bit more disappointed. But like,
yeah, if that happens in Elden Ring, you put the controller down and you come back in a couple of months.
Why would anybody pick it up in the first place when it comes to Elden Ring?
Hey, you know,
scathing critique too.
This is ridiculous. Maybe that's why you didn't like Shadow of the Colossus. You picked it up and you were like, I'm a guy on a horse, like Elden Ring. No, thank you.
The same thing happened with Witcher 3. I picked it up, I played it for 30 seconds, and I'm like, I don't like it.
Maybe you just don't like horses.
I don't Maybe.
Sin just hates open world games because you have to navigate on horses. It's not the open world, couldn't be. It's the horse.
Sin threatened to nuke her own channel because she could not stop with Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, I have a problem. Look, Gideon, when it comes to Fallout 3 and New Vegas, also 76, once I start playing it, I literally can't stop.
The gameplay loop is weirdly addictive. I don't get it.
It's everything. It's just such a... Fallout 3 is the ultimate game. Thank you, Todd Howard.
Thank you, Liam Neeson.
Oh, that's right. He's in that. Thank you, Chandler Bing in New Vegas.
Oh.
Here's a gamer Sin. I've never played New Vegas. I've never beaten it.
Have you played Fallout 3?
I have. I grew up on that one. Fallout 3 is fun. I love the... I just love how, like, at the end, you know, you can have this super mutant guy and you're like, hey, could you go hit those 4 things on the keypad for me? And he's like, no, it is your destiny to die. Fuck you.
He's like, no, but if you pay for the DLC, maybe.
Literally.
Yeah, and then I love his shitty attitude when he's like, well, you know, you're really supposed to be the one that does this. Like, Todd, make your game better, brother. And like, story-wise, I think it makes a lot of sense because the whole thing is about, you know, you're like going out there and you're sort of figuring out who you are in this world, and then you're choosing to sacrifice yourself to save the world. And it's like, yeah, it's a nice story, but you can't tell me the super mutants are immune to this and then give me a super mutant friend who can do this and just have him not want to do it. That's ridiculous.
Well, you can also send your companion there, right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah, you can kill your buddy.
Yeah, it's like a low honor way of doing it.
Yeah.
I don't get why I can't just send my father in there. Like, Dad, you left...
He already died.
He died? Oh, I thought he died. No, that's right. That's right.
What an amateur.
What an amateur.
Yeah, amateur Fallout theorist.
Who was the guy who shot him? The bad guy.
Oh.
Yeah. Colonel something.
You amateurs. Guy. Why can't you send him in and be like, hey, you do it.
You do it, yeah.
But yeah, Fallout rocks, man. Fallout 3 Fallout 3 is really good. Fallout New Vegas it's a much better role-playing game, but the exploration is not as good. There's not a lot of like... I wasn't as hooked to just go into the world and find things as I was in Fallout 3. Bethesda's really good at that.
I think that's what killed it for me. It's like, I was so used to Fallout 3 the only time I tried to play, and I just went off walking in a direction, and I was like, wow, I've been walking for like 15 minutes. There's nothing here. This really is just a desert.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think if you follow the quest prompts and go where you're supposed to in a more
Mhm.
RPGified fashion, then it definitely
Yeah.
work better.
Yeah. You can also definitely feel the extent to which the world design is informed by the quests, because it takes place in the Mojave Desert, and there's like a giant road that you follow from Sarsaparilla Springs, or whatever the hell that starting town's name is. And you just like basically go in a big circle. You like go to the strip, and you're like just complete the loop. Go through the Hoover Dam, meet the Great Khans, meet Caesar's Legion, meet everybody, and there's not a lot. There's not a lot of the map unexplored by the end of the main story. Whereas in Fallout 3, you can. I think you're covering like a third, maybe half of the map by the main story, and the rest is just there for you to explore if you want to. Yeah. Maybe that's why you
Indeed.
like Outlast, and you just like being a guy in first-person mode, and you're just like walking through the world.
Yeah, maybe if it's an
And there's no
interesting
horses
world.
in it. There's no horses in it,
As far as you know.
as far as you know.
As you know.
What if they had a horse in Outlast 3, Sin? Would you hate it?
Is the horse's name Ludwig?
Oh,
Ah, my guiding moonlight.
I think Ludwig would fit in pretty well in that asylum. I mean, he'd be the most crazy-looking thing there, but you'd be like, oh yeah, this is pretty normal for this place.
Yeah, he's been in the morphogenic engine a few times, and
Yeah, the mutagenic ooze.
Oh wait, what is the mutagenic ooze? Where is that phrase from?
It's from Ninja Turtles.
Is it really?
Yeah, they were when they were little guys, they were dropped in the mutagenic ooze, and it made them into the Ninja Turtles.
Damn. I didn't know that you were so versed in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle lore, Aesir.
Literally nobody knows it better than me. Ask me anything.
Was I don't know anything about it. Was the rat guy, the rat sensei, also dropped in the ooze, or is he just like that? Is he
Sure.
that smart?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, who is the best turtle?
The girl one, Venus.
There's a girl turtle?
What?
Yeah, they introduced her in like the cartoon to like try to. I think they were trying to get girls to watch the cartoon in the 80s.
Girls were already watching it.
Well, they felt the need to introduce her.
Huh.
No, the best one is Michelangelo, man. He's the best one.
Yes, agreed. That's the right answer.
Did you ever read? There's a great comic. I think Layman and Leard, or whatever the hell the creators' names are. They sold the rights to the Ninja Turtles, but they also just have in their contract when they sold it that I think they can publish like 8 Ninja Turtle stories that they write every year, and they don't need to get any permission or anything. So
Okay.
they just made hundreds of millions of dollars, and also they get to keep doing it whenever they feel like it. Great deal.
That's an incredible
yeah.
exit clause.
Maybe Leard and Eastman, I think their name are. Anyways, I think they worked on this story. And now the story's name is completely dropped from my mind. But basically, it happens 20 years or something in the future, and there's only one Ninja Turtle left. And he has the katanas, like he has the katanas from Leonardo. He has Donatello's stick. He has the sais. He has all the weapons.
Oh,
And he's
wow.
like, he's got a little bit of every one of their personalities. And you're like, but it's in black and white, I think. So you
Oh.
can't you
Interesting.
can't
So
you don't know which one it is until the end of the comic, where it's revealed which one it is. And I'm not going to say who it is because
Spoilers.
I really like that one.
Oh, okay, we'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, for sure you will. You hate the Ninja Turtles.
What? I had the VHSs in the Soviet Union. I watched it in Russian.
Was it the same where it's just like one guy who narrated it like this?
Definitely. We only had the one guy.
He was a prolific guy. He got
Yeah.
around.
Did they rename the Ninja Turtles? Was it like, Rasputin and Solzhenitsyn
Wait,
or
what
whatever?
was it? Super Ninja Черепашки? I think it was Super Ninja Turtles.
That's so lame.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
They couldn't
But it
be
was-
mutated anymore.
Like, nope.
Or is
There's
it
no-
Shripash? I might be misremembering it. It could be mutant turtles.
There's
It could be.
There's no mutation in communism.
No, I may be wrong. I don't quite remember. I know the teenage part wasn't in there. It was just mutant turtles, I think.
They were full-grown adults.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reveal something to you guys. I don't actually know that much about the Ninja Turtles.
But you are one.
Oh my god.
But he has amnesia, which explains why he doesn't know that much.
Yeah.
But and also explains why I love Amnesia so much. I keep bringing it up.
We've come full circle.
Yeah.
Just like Outlast.
Oh, yes. We've become the host. This is...
You know what's a great sequence is when Chris Walker is about to kill you in the
That
subterranean
happens
area.
a lot.
Yeah, well, specifically the one in the subterranean area, and then the
Yes.
Wall Rider comes and just rips him to shreds.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
And you're like, oh, well, I guess there's something else I need to worry about now.
Yeah. Bigger fish. Like, out of the frying pan into the fire moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting. Okay, so the note that's one of the more memorable notes that you get from that event, because it's like he escaped this hell and I hope he didn't find another, which, like, if you look at the way that the Wall Rider kills you and a lot of other characters, it filters into your body and then, like, explodes you. So, like, for a moment you're, like, meshed together. And if you take the moment before Miles, like, Billy dies as he's doing that to Miles, and that might be, like, the last part of integration that made Miles the host of, like, Billy's spirit or the Wall Rider or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if there is this idea of going to a deeper hell, if that's not just, like, flavorful dialogue that they're writing, then it might be that, like, the Wall Rider's victims who are already being psychologically attuned to it through, like, the Gospel of Sand and, like, the whispering and the hallucinations, then they might be, like, literally being integrated into whatever, like, consciousness, you know? They're getting, it's like what All Mind's doing to people in AC6. Just weird coincidence there, but sort of something I was thinking about after seeing it all.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sin, what are you doing?
I'm checking an email.
Unprofessional.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
just valid.
Valid. Listen, Wernick is like, how do I write this protocol?
Okay, Sin, with your medical research knowledge, tell us about what a protocol is and how it applies to Outlast before we finish up the episode. Ooh.
Well, a protocol is basically a set of procedures that you kind of write down to explain what you're going to do in your study. And, you have to follow the protocol, right? You can't deviate from it. That's why you have it. And interestingly enough, this is something you submit to an ethics board to get your study approved. So I'm just wondering what ethics board approved the Outlast protocol?
The internal Murkoff one that doesn't talk to strangers.
Yeah.
I like that though. That they're like, I'm the guy who's reviewing reviewing it. I'm like on the ethic board, and I'm like, okay, so you got a bunch of former Nazis here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put a pin in that. You're doing experiments where you're forcing people to stay awake, and you're just inducing lucid dreaming in them.
Yeah.
Ethically dubious. Let's put a pin in that.
Oh,
You're,
old research notes from MK Ultra are involved. Let's put a pin in that.
Let's put a pin in that one. So I'm also looking here that you're injecting people with nanomachines. Let's put a pin in that. It's just like keeps going.
Overall, great effort. Like, does the approved stamp.
Yeah. They just really liked Metal Gear. The fact that the nanomachines are a Metal Gear reference sold it for them.
Metal Gear.
But yeah, I think that's exactly an hour mark. So that's sort of a good time to finish out, I think.
Nice.
It's been wonderful to chat about Outlast, obviously. It's a really good game. The pacing is so on point. I think, like, the way that you go from horror to walking around, letting the tension build again to horror, it works, especially within the interactive video game format. But
yeah, it's also a good AA success story. We don't have a lot of AA studios left anymore, and whenever we have them, like Red Pearls, it's always great to cherish them because they don't tend to last that long anymore.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's true. It's true.
So yeah, any closing statements from you two? Where can we find your channel? Or do you have any upcoming projects? What's going on there?
Oh, I'm at Aesir Aesthetics on YouTube and on the Twitters and such. I recently released my, I don't know when this would release, but when we record this at least, I released my big Armored Core 6 video. And my next video is going to be a video about Estus healing and grass healing and like just the history of the different healing systems in From Software's games.
Okay.
So yeah, that's fun.
Yeah. And I'm Sin from SinclairLore, when Sophie and I do podcasts on various things like games, anime, and stuff like that. But Sophie's been here before, so you know.
Yes. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much for joining, and yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you once again for listening, and I hope everyone had a spooky Halloween. Thank you once again to Aesir Aesthetics and Sin from SinclairLore for being so wonderful as to make a guest appearance, and thank you to Agaric over on r/eldenringdiscussion, who has been a wonderful moderator. If you aren't already on the subreddit, then what are you even doing with your life? Coming up next will be an interview with Mad Luigi concerning interactivity in games, as well as the oft-announced, but yet to be released, Elden Ring Iceberg with Aesir Aesthetics. In the meantime, why don't you go check out Aesir's Armored Core 6 video, along with some of SinclairLore's wonderful podcast episodes. I quite liked Aguazu Needs Therapy. Thanks again for listening, and don't you dare go hollow on me.